I really should hire a maid. Combi tools. Uh, there's a whole bunch of them on the market. They go under different names. Ryobi calls it the expanded line. Um, Troy Built, I believe, calls it the universal system. Basically, what they are is they're a straight shaft trimmer. The shaft is cut halfway down, and you can put different attachments on it. This one that I just dumped a piece off of is a brush cutter attachment. Combi tools are awesome. And honestly, for a homeowner, homesteader, renter, pretty much anybody that's not a professional landscaper, they really are the most bang for your buck. You've got a one-time investment of like $200 to get your power head. That usually gives you your string trimmer too. And then after that, it's $80 to $160 here and there. And you've got everything from a weed eater to a 12-foot pole saw for pruning trees and everything in between. They're awesome. So today, I'm getting some of my attachments ready to start carving away at the brush that sprouted up over fall and winter and start getting this place tamed again. I'm going to show you some of the toys I've picked up over the years to get a little bit more use out of a weed eater power head. In my opinion, one of the biggest advantages of a combination tool system, be it Ryobi, Craftsman, whatever brand you want, is it's not like back in the old days when anytime you needed to go from cutting grass to, I don't know, mowing brush, things like that, you had a whole bunch of stuff that you had to swap out, you know, and then you would wind up losing pieces, things would get misplaced, parts would jump out, fly across the shop, and God only knows where they'd wind up, you know. Um, Being able to just click the knob, click the button, and throw on a different tool really is a godsend most of the time. So my plan here is I'm gonna go from one brush cutter head to two, and something you saw last year is going to make a reappearance, and you're going to see something that I've actually had longer than that, but it's never made an appearance before, and it's a handy piece of equipment. You're going to like it. I just had to check and make sure that I had the blasted blade on right side up. Last season, I wore all the paint off of the top of this thing. So, yeah. Okay. That's good to go now. Yeah, you've already seen what this does. Okay. This is the other one that I wanted to show you. I've actually had this longer than that gnarly, scary chainsaw looking sucker. It's marketed on Amazon as a two-tooth Blackberry mulching blade. And unlike a lot of the things that Amazon sells, it actually does what it says on the box. This thing rips. And honestly, it's all about having the right tool for the job, you know. This cuts blackberries like crazy, or really any kind of brush that is really heavily thatched, because you can come down from the top of whatever brush heads you're working on. And these wings on the end of the blade, they're sharp. The edge runs all the way from here out to here, okay? And this downward curve cuts into your, okay, so blackberries, you know, they grow up like all plants do. But when they reach a certain height, they start curling over on themselves. And when that happens, you get what's called thatching. It can be a real bear to cut through with just a straight cut brush blade like this, okay? Or the more common three-bladed brush cutting attachments that you find at your local hardware stores. I mean, you can get it done, but you've got to hold your tool in some pretty awkward ways. It's absolute hell on your shoulders because you got to fight the tool through it. Whereas this Blackberry blade, it's what it's meant to do. So I've actually observed this thing while I'm using it. This blade actually cuts down through the top, and as you're coming into it, these downward curved ears on the edges, they rip into that thatch, they break it up, and by the time you get down to the ground, you know, and you're mowing off the stump, you've got very, very manageable, easy to handle mulch. Your chunks are, well, the biggest ones are about like that, unless you do like I have a tendency to do and just start sighing back and forth once you get to a certain point, because I actually don't mind handling longer blackberry canes. I've got the right clothing on and things like that. To me, it's not that big a deal, but you can actually, I've actually, just to see if I could do it, I've ground a cane that big into dust just by gradually lowering that wheel down over it. It does not care. It gets the job done for you lickety split. All right, now the other important part of a good combi tool setup is your power head. Like many other things, you have options. Some of y'all might remember this and that from last season when I did a tool review on that guy. I compared it apples to apples to this thing. This is a 4-stroke, I think it's a Craftsman. Yeah, Craftsman 4-cycle, 25cc. You don't got to mix your gas. And when it's not being horrendously stubborn, it's actually not too difficult to get started, unlike a lot of the older 4-cycle weed eaters and combi tools. So I'm going to fiddle fart around with this thing for a few minutes, make sure, see if it's got oil in it, and see if I can get it to fire up. And then we'll talk a little bit about the pros and cons of this and that. I really wish I could figure out why this darn thing leaks oil so that I could just fix it. I gotta go find some 30 weight. Alrighty, so found a bottle of 30 weight. There's no dipstick on these things, so you just pour until you got a visible oil level, basically. Weather like we've been having too, you got to go kind of easy, because, alright, that looks like enough. Your oil's going to be thick, so you'll be tipping and tipping and tipping and nothing coming out. And then all of a sudden you're just like, bleh, and you get a big old freaking burble of it, and it makes a mess. Okay, so let's see. We got some oil in there now. I'll move you guys down here on things is not cooperating. Okay. I'm using my phone for this because my holster has this neat little kickstand deal. Okay. Oh, I know what's wrong. It ain't got no gas in it. Alright. Go ahead and tighten up the running vise just so she doesn't flop around on me while I'm trying to put gas in her. When you're doing any kind of small engine work on like weed eaters, chainsaws, stuff like that, I'll tell you, it really pays to have a small vise on your workbench. Alright, we're going to call that good until we know whether or not this thing's actually going to run. Alright. Now this thing's chokeless, so instead of just sitting in a choke and starting to yank, I gotta sit here pumping a primer bulb for half a day. 8, 9, 10. That looks good. Okay. Y'all get to witness my first attempt at pulling a starter cord right-handed since my shoulder surgery. Let's see how it goes. Not bad so far. Need to tighten the vise up though. Okay. If it doesn't start in the first 10 pulls, repeat steps 1 to 3. Still runs. Not sure if it's leaking oil or not. I'm going to let it sit and warm up. And then, I don't know, put a piece of card, put something under it. I don't know. I make this stuff up as I go. Back in a minute. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that that sucker's still leaking. Oh well, it is what it is. They're not horribly expensive, so as long as it gets the major stuff done, might pick up a new one later in the season. Alrighty, so finally got all my stuff together and got out to get some hogging done. Here I've got the electric cordless Ryobi power head. You saw how quick I just popped the brush wheel off. I'm throwing the string head on and fixing to go to work on a big patch of canary grass that is blocking the way to a tree that I need to fall in a couple of weeks. Couple bumps, get some string out, and boom, I'm in it. Now I use an up and down motion when I'm hogging out something really tall or really thatched up. I actually use the same motion whether I'm using a string head or one of my brush cutters, just because it's honestly, it seems to me in my experience to be the best technique. You come in, break loose the stuff on the top as you go, and you can just work your way down all the way until you're gouging the dirt if you like. There we are. See? I don't know if you can tell in the video or not, but I'm getting all the way down to the fresh grass coming in underneath all of that dead stuff. Yeah, that's enough of that. Now this is the tool that I really wanted to show y'all. It's the it's a no name. I just got it off Amazon.
There's an actual fancier version made by Oregon. It's basically the same tool though, and you have the same stuff to deal with. So honestly, just buy the less expensive house brand one and save yourself some money. This is that big two-tooth Blackberry mulching blade. Now, this isn't blackberries that I'm going at here. It's actually a tangled up mess of nightshade, salmonberry. There may or may not be some baby alder trees in there. It's a great big mess. Now, as you can see, with kind of an up and down and then pulling towards myself motion, I'm chewing right through it. And that blade just works wonders for breaking up stuff like that. Here we got another transition. I'm using the gas power head just because everything's so thick over there where I'm at. It's just as easy as the Ryobi, though it takes a little bit longer because the bolt that locks everything in place, you got to sit there cranking on it a little bit more. Whereas the Ryobi just has a simple three-quarter, it's got a really slick three-quarter turn ratchet mechanism to lock everything in place. So your swapping out is quicker. And of course, being a four-stroke tool, gas powered tool, this Craftsman is heavier, but I wear a shoulder strap when I'm running it. It makes it not too bad. Now, I'm literally filming this with a GoPro clamped on the weed eater, so the vibration is absolutely bonkers. But you can see with that chainsaw brush blade, where it really shines is when you're dealing with woody stuff that's growing more or less straight up. And you can, whatever you're dealing with, you can cut it off right down to the ground, or you can take it out in chunks. You see right there on that nightshade, I tried just cutting the main trunks down, but everything's all tangled up, buzzing through some alder branches, salmon berries, you in all honesty, I should have gone at this patch with the mulching blade first, just to break everything up above so that I had some room to work because it's all getting tangled up on me. You see there, can't even move the tool. Uh, all right, back into it now. I'm cutting, shortening up those nightshade trunks a little, and if I wanted to, I could swap out to the mulching blade, come in from the top, get all that shit up above out of the way so that everything quits tangling up on me, and then come in with this swap out to this wheel, come in and just back and forth, just chop it all up all the way down to the ground, and then grind off the stump. It's also not helping my cause out much here that my blade is finally starting to go dull. It's going to need a filing when I'm done today. The real moral of the story here with both of these, honestly, is just having the right tool for the job. I mean, over the years, I've had to clear brush with everything from just a pair of hand loppers and a machete to swinging a great big steel 460 chainsaw with a 32-inch bar on it back and forth like some kind of psychotic 20th century Conan. And, obviously that's doing it the wrong way with the wrong tools. And I'll tell you right now, when you got to deal with stuff like this, having the right tools for what you're doing makes all the freaking difference in terms of your fatigue and just the overall efficiency getting the job done in a timely manner. I mean, I quit early on it today just because the weather isn't really cooperating. So, you know, there's that. But I've had this stuff for a while now, and I can tell you right now that if I needed to, I could clear easily an acre of brush in a day with those two attachments on. any gas powered power head. Now, it is important to note here that while the 40-volt Ryobi will run the chainsaw tooth wheel, it really does not like the mulching blade at all. It'll sit there and spin it up if it's not doing anything, but as soon as you put any kind of resistance on it, it overloads the motor and engages the battery cutout. So if you got that big a mess to deal with and you got to throw one of them on, you really do want to make sure it's on a gas power head.
I don't know if it's going to show up or not, but a nice bright rainbow this afternoon. And I just felt a raindrop. Guess I'm going to the shop. Well, I guess that's as good a time to stop as any. So, as you can see, those two tools make clear and brush a dream. And you saw how fast you can go from cutting down woody stuff or hogging out blackberries to knocking down some canary grass that you got to get out of your way so you can fell a tree. I highly, I highly recommend if you got to get any kind of a, if you got to buy a weed eater, just spend the extra money and get a Combi tool. It's absolutely worth it in the long run. I mean, it cuts down on the clutter in your storage shed. It gives you everything you could possibly need that you can run off of that machine right there handy. And you can really bang out the chores, I'm telling you. So, it's raining, and I've dulled my chainsaw blade. So, I've got some filing and sharpening to do. I will see you all next time.